Anyway, 8030550. Okay, so draft stuff. I want to tell you about the draft crush. Ryan Talbot found a piece on Landon Jackson, and in it, Jackson says he's talked with the Bills 8 times. I think I talked to the Bills 8 times. They had formal combine interviews with the Bills and the Commanders, and he's a edge rusher, defensive end, who might be available right at the end of the first or early second. And it's funny, like you think about talking to a guy 8 times. This is the draft, so we all get our own interpretations of what's what. You tell me that you have talked to a guy 8 times, I think 2 things. 1, you definitely want this player. Right? You're very interested.
Yeah.
But then I had a buddy say to me, it also means you are trying to talk yourself into this player. Does it not? Why are you talking to him 8 times?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have to learn? You like him or not? You want 8 times? I mean,
yeah.
It might be a little bit of an exaggeration from Landon Jackson, who fits the bill. He's an edge, so that helps. His RAS score is like a 9.8, elite athlete. He's big and tall. The Bills want to be big and powerful.
Yeah.
I think that's not a coincidence. Groot's huge, right? Greg Rousseau, huge.
Yep.
Drafting another edge rusher that'd be huge. The new guy, Michael Hoyt, big, huge. Mm-hmm. They might want to get after the quarterback in a way that they do it, but also they do it while being giants. They want huge, long arms.
Yeah.
And Landon Jackson is the name. Arkansas edge.
Yeah, I do wonder what the 8 times thing means. I'm reading Moneyball right now, like the book itself, and one of the drafts, Billy Beane, they kept him away from the player he loved because they didn't want the rest of the league to know that they liked him. So he never went and saw him. Not one time.
Mm-hmm.
And literally other teams were like, he must love him because he hasn't seen him play once. Like they were hiding, they're trying to hide it. So this is almost the opposite.
But there's no way
Would you want everyone to know that Beane's gone to see this guy 9 times?
I just don't
now
think,
everyone in the league knows.
I just don't think you're spending your time pretending to like a player.
That would be a hardcore smokescreen.
It would.
If it really, man, you see they're going after this Arkansas guy 8 times, then he's on the board and they're like, ha ha, we got you.
Right. The whole league is thinking
we're drafting a receiver.
The whole league's thinking congratulations. I draft 11th. What am I worried about?
How deep do they really go with this stuff? The booby traps of it, like it can't be this deep, right? Where like I'm kind of implying here, where Beane is going to talk to this kid 8 times so that if he wants a receiver, for instance, that this time some team that wants Matthew Golden is going to be looking like, oh, where do we have to trade up to get Matthew Golden? No, do we have to go to 29? No. Beane's going after this Arkansas guy. He's good. And then he pulls the rug out from under him like, I am the guy getting Matthew Golden at 30. I don't think it goes that deep.
Probably not.
So they probably like this guy.
Yeah.
And he's massive, and he's edge, and I've got Pro Football Focus ranking him as the 40th overall prospect in this draft, so if you want him, you'd have to take him at 30, unless you want to trade down. But you're not getting him with your late second-round pick, I don't think. So that is somebody that he ran a slowish 40 time, but whatever. Edge rushers, right? Doesn't matter as much. Edge is not off the table at all, right? In any way?
No.
It would be harder to fit snaps in and figure out the puzzle of where a 30th overall pick edge player would play. Harder than like corner would. Corner's easy, right? Just, the guy's the starter. Opposite Christian Benford.
Right.
You draft a defensive tackle, it's easy. Like he's rotating with Daquan Jones. He's playing 50% of the snaps. Edge, it's, okay, how much is Bosa playing, and how much is Hoyt playing, and how much is Rousseau playing, and how much is Epinesa playing, and how much is the new kid playing? Like, I've got a lot of guys now, a lot of mouths to feed, but I still feel like I'd definitely have a spot if the guy is good. Just, take Epinesa snaps away if it really comes down to it.
I mean, they could still even move on from Epinesa. There's, an avenue to do that if they decided they found something better.
Yep.
If they use all their picks. 8030550. What's the best idea for the Bills right now? What's the best idea? Who's got an idea?
A guy or a position?
Either.
I'm trying to find a guy that I like.
Right. You want a Jimmy and Joe, not an X and O. You want. Where's my difference maker coming from? We all got to the offseason with the idea of they're going to need players that make a difference. And the draft class might produce that. You never know. That's kind of it's a bit of a crapshoot. What's the best idea? Just to trust the process, go through it again, run it. I mean, they need to add a receiver. We know that because they added one and lost two. So somewhere along the way, a receiver is going to come in. I would think in one of the first 3 picks, even maybe the 4th pick. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's the 4th round, though.
Is it debatable though, or is it defendable that receiver is the best idea at 30?
Oh, for sure.
Because I want to talk myself into that, but I also understand their need for stud defensive players. And at the same time, defense, they're going to need a bunch of guys. Offense, like if we went through positionally what they could draft at 30, there's no other position on offense that is even worth discussing.
No, it's just one.
At 30. It's just the receiver. That's it. And they've just done it a couple of times, but they're not in really good shape, I would say. They're in okay shape, probably at best, at that spot. So I'm going to put another asset there. I don't really even know that it should matter that I've just done it a couple of times.
Well, mix into this their level of surprise. Because how about Bean talking about Mack Hollins leave? You'd have to ask Mack.
Yeah, it sounded like he wanted him back.
Aren't they blindsided a bit by Hollins leaving? They had to think, come on.
He'll be back.
Where's he going to go?
That's how all of us treated it, right? Like
a little bit. Everybody assumed he'd be back. So the Bills might go to the offseason thinking like, listen, we'll bring back Mack. We'll go sign Josh Palmer. I mean, Palmer got signed before Mack left.
Right.
So
they might have thought we're good.
Maybe.
We're all good.
But come on, we're going to get this done. He's not going to leave. He can be a nice depth piece for us, and he's on the roster. Everybody loves him. Josh trusts him. He led us in touchdown catches last year. We don't want him to have all those targets, but he's a steady value player we can just bank on. And then he left. And you are, if you're being, here's the draft board, here's everybody, positional needs. Wide receiver, a lot of us would have said receiver was a need even if Mack Hollins did come back. But that he didn't come back means they have to look at what else is out there. I mean, Josh Palmer got a good chunk of money from them. He's a guy that's been in the league and is looking to step up. What's next?
Well, what do they want, too, from that position? Do
speed.
They want
vertical speed.
That's the thing. You might only have one more meaningful spot at receiver, a guy that would be playing a significant amount of snaps. Do you want a Mack Hollins replacement? Do you want bigger body, amazing blocker, the guy that's out there when there's only one receiver on the field because we're likely going to run the ball or we're running play action? Do you want that guy? Or do you want what McDermott talked about again after this season? Do you want what Bean talked about? And do you want the thing that they were bad at, which is down the field? Do you want a speed guy down the field? Because lining those two things up is probably not going to happen. But to me, especially at 30, I don't need to spend the first-round pick to replace what Mack Hollins did for me. I'd like to believe that Keon Coleman can just replace what Mack Hollins did for me at receiver, right? Similar body type and similar route tree maybe to what Hollins ran last year for Coleman. Why isn't he the guy that would be that? One receiver's on the field because I'm probably going to run the ball and I need a big body and a good blocker. Shouldn't that be Keon Coleman? Shouldn't I have that roster spot filled already? He's not going to be the veteran that Hollins was. But the guy I need is a fast guy. And then I start going into the lists of, okay, how fast is Matthew Golden? Oh, he ran a 4.29? Good. That's the guy I want. He's not blocking for me. He's not Mack Hollins in any way. But that's the receiver I'd want if I were them.
Golden's got the potential to be like a true number one. Like there's a lot of his game that's just more than just speed. But
maybe he'll end up being my guy at 30.
He's going to go way before that. The last mock I saw, Matthew Golden goes 11th. Ted McMillan's interesting. He's at his pro day. He's the Arizona wide receiver.
I guess the one I'm looking at right now, he goes 23rd.
Okay. I just saw one where McMillan went 22nd, which would be a big fall for him because I've seen him mocked as high as 4. And he's the only receiver in the last 2 years to have 1,300 scrimmage yards each of the last 2 seasons. His pro day, he ran a number that's not blazing, but it's good enough. So he might be the first receiver off the board. I don't know if the Bills are there in the mix on 30, but in the second round, one of the names is Luther Burden, of Missouri, who his stock was higher last year than it is this year. And one of the things about Burden is he gets, ready for this? Prepare yourself. And I don't know how true it is, but it can be a knock in the draft for a receiver if you are thought to only play the slot. And Burden played a lot in the slot. A lot of it. He got a lot of his catches behind the line of scrimmage. Like a Shakir kind of role, right? I remember when the Bills drafted Sammy Watkins. This is going way back. But the Bills drafted Sammy Watkins, and one of the big knocks on Watkins was 52% of his catches are at or behind the line of scrimmage. They ran him on screens all the time.
Right.
And the instant response was, well, yeah, that's what they did to succeed. That doesn't mean that's all he can do. In college, you do what you're asked to do, what works. It doesn't mean it's all that you can do. And I was reading a little bit about Burden, as that might be something that sinks his stock. And I kind of prepared myself for he slides into the second round. The Bills take him. People say he's a slot, and the Bills say we can play him outside. They do that all the time. Shakir, they said, he can play on the outside. He doesn't. Coleman, thought to be maybe a power slot, plays on the outside. I don't know about Burden as a perfect fit or whatever, but it just kind of struck me that that's a knock on him that might not be totally fair. And again, he didn't have the year that many expected him to have. This time last year, Burden would have been thought of as potentially wide receiver 1 coming up in the next draft.
Yeah, I'm almost disappointed by that because I like that player, and I did not realize this, that how much more he played in the last 2 seasons. Slot snaps, 577. Wide snaps, 91.
Yeah, right.
Year 1, his 2022 season, he played 289 outside and 44 in the slot. So there's one season on tape 3 years ago where he was playing out wide. And to your point, man, 2023, Burden, this is the Missouri receiver, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. Last year, 676 yards, 6 touchdowns. He played the same amount of games.
Yeah, he just didn't have.
It got cut in half.
He did not have the year.
That's very strange.
He might be the wide receiver that, if we're just talking wide receiver today, just kind of got there. We started the segment talking about an edge rusher, Landon Jackson, but I see a lot of he's left out of the first round, and I don't understand why. Like, as a comment, Daniel Jeremiah leaves Luther Burden out of the first round. How could this happen? Yeah. And that the explanation is production and slot. If you're just a slot guy, I wonder when slot receiver will get to where running back got to, which is you can find one. You might like yours a lot, but you can find one. Don't go nuts paying for that position because all the old veteran receivers who used to be really good can generally slide in there. And there are some that are great.
There are some that can take like Lamb is a slot guy. If you look at his snaps, CeeDee Lamb primarily plays in the slot, and he's elite. And Kupp for years was this, right? Kupp was a guy that played in the slot, and he had monster years. But what are there, 3 guys like that? And the rest aren't a lot of the other ones like pretty good? And again, even like Lamb is someone that might play more in the slot, but when he does go outside, he's still an elite receiver.
Yep.
And that's not true of like your Shakir guys, where Shakir bounces to the outside, and you're getting a lot less productivity.
Right. That's the difference between your $15 million and your $30 million guy. The guy that can get open on the outside.
And sorry, Lamb was like 50-50 the last couple of years, so he does everything.
803-0550, our number. So anyway, what's the best idea? What's the big move? What do we all feel? We're waiting.
Is there a trade-up idea that's worth it for any of these positions?
I'll be stunned if they don't trade up. Stunned. I would have been. I mean, every year I want to say I'm stunned if Bean doesn't trade up. He loves to move up 2-3 spots because they identify the guy they like and they go get him. They trade up for Allen. They trade up for Edmonds. They trade up for Kincaid. They trade up for Elam. They trade up for Cody Ford. They always trade up. They get within 2 picks or 3 picks of their
Edmonds,
spot.
They traded up.
And Bean says, well, I'll go spend one of these late picks and move up 3 spots and take my guy.
Yeah.
And you're at 30, by the time it gets late in the day on that Thursday night, it's the 22nd pick.
Well,
they're going to be looking. They're going to be looking and calling.
What are they going to be falling in love with, though? We don't know, but, I mean, how are we going to feel if they trade up for, like, a corner? Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky, who I see in a lot of mocks, goes, like, right before the Bills. They trade up 5 spots and draft a corner.
I'm going to be fine.
We're good?
I'm going to be fine. In my old age, I've become a
corner. So they do that for one of 4 positions: corner, D-line, defensive end or inside. I could even count that as 2.
Sure.
And receiver.
Yep.
Any of those 4, they move up.
I'm fine. Like I was about to say, in my old age, I've become stop telling me all you should do is trade down. I just think the trade down industrial complex has kind of lost the plot a little bit.
Well, what I've said on that over the years is that I think whenever that gets said, it just gets ignored that, that an undrafted free agent is somehow less valuable than a 7th-round pick by, like, leaps and bounds. Mm-hmm. As if, like, I'm getting day 3 picks in a trade that's significantly more valuable than the guy I might just find on the street. A lot of those guys, you draft a guy in the 7th round, he maybe was about to go undrafted anyway. So that's usually my thought on it, is you get all those picks, they're not all going to make the team anyway. If you're going to move up a couple of spots, that's fine.
Yep.
There probably isn't, though, even thinking about trading up and, like, what the best idea is, because I'm still trying to find what I want them to do a lot. I think my problem is I feel like there are 7 ideas I've been talked into. Like, oh, you want a defensive tackle? Fine. You want to trade up for it? Fine. Defensive end? Fine.
Yeah.
You want a receiver? I love receivers, but fine. Any type, whatever.
Not slot.
Not slot. Yeah, not slot primarily. I wouldn't be into that. But, like, even last year. Last year, I got to a point where I wanted them to move up, like, big. Like, go to 9. Remember the Bears pick? Go to 9 and go get Rome Odunze.
Yeah.
Like, I was into that. And this year, Ted McMillan, maybe you could convince yourself that that's the guy worthy of that type of conversation, but I'm not there at all with anybody that's on this board.
And I still think Golden's the more specific fit.
Well, Golden, I don't think you have to go as far. I mean, you saw him early. I've
seen him early.
I see 2 right here where he's going in the 20s.
Okay.
So that's moving up 6-7 spots maybe.